actual studies and look at the scientific consensus, it is clear it's a religion at this point. It's a really weird, really sad religion.
Yeah, I would agree, Swayze. You have a religion of science. Swayze did this video on terrible reasons, excuses to eat meat, something like this. And I'm just going to go over the most annoying bits. This had me screaming, so I'm just going to warn you.
Its consequences to the climate, since deer are ruminants just like cows and burp methane just like cows. Arguably worse per yield of meat because animals that forage, they grow more slowly, they have lower carcass weights than feedlot finished cows. But what about controlling populations in forest-abutting suburbs? Ultimately, the most reliable way to do it is to control food sources, but if that can't be done fast enough or effectively, there are non-lethal methods to control deer population. The Humane Society has pioneered the use of a vaccine contraceptive for deer, and it has been approved by the EPA. There's no reason to think we have to hunt deer or that hunting is justified in light of modern technology.
Okay, so here she's talking about how there's an overpopulation of white-tailed deer, and it's obviously better to kill them all off. Or, make sure they don't even come into existence at all. Vaccinate them with, birth control vaccines that they have. Yeah, vaccinate them, and then that's better than actually having them hunted and using their meat for nourishment. How is that better? And so she's blaming the overpopulation. She's blaming that on all these techniques that hunters have, like setting out corn, which we do that around here everywhere on our property, not just to hunt, but it's nice to sit out on the porch, drink a cup of coffee, and see deer walking up on your property. Nature is nice. I think this is the biggest problem vegans like her have, is living symbiotically with nature. They don't know how to do it. And I'll get more into that in a minute.
Demonize plant agriculture as destructive, despite grazing being a main contributor to desertification and cattle being a major contributor to climate change. But wait, they'll say, that's not true. Regenerative agriculture, if they did it right and followed these arbitrary, not at all evidence-based rules, then it would have restored the soil. Somehow, in some way. It's no true scholar.
So yeah, she doesn't understand regenerative agriculture, and so she thinks she's so smart by looking up what the scientific consensus is, because that's all she does with anything, with any topic. She's so disconnected from nature, from her instincts, from understanding and be able to critically think out things on her own, that she has to just look and see what other scientists are saying, what are the majority saying. And that can be useful sometimes to gather your own ideas and whatnot, but she's clearly just completely dismissing this as if there's no substance to it at all. And there is, if she would just look a little bit. So sometimes the scientific consensus can be wrong, believe it or not. We don't have everything figured out just yet. And as Alan Savory, he explains this quite well. I'll put the TED Talk below. But he explains this well, and he believed it too, that he had to reduce the number of these animals. And that was what was going to help. And it wasn't. It was moving the animals, treating them as if nature intended for them to be herd animals, moving together. And yeah, I'll let him explain it. And if you want to look further into this, I'll leave that below. But that's what I was talking about when I say people like her seem to have this lack of connection, this lack of understanding, and how we should live, coexisting to help nature, to benefit us, to benefit nature. They don't seem to really know how to do that. So they're trying to have all these global, modern solutions for problems that can be simply rectified by just going back to our roots, going back to how things used to be done.
that. What we had failed to understand was that these seasonal humidity environments of the world, the soil and the vegetation, developed with very large numbers of grazing animals, and that these grazing animals developed with ferocious pack-hunting predators. Now, the main defense against pack-hunting predators is to get into herds, and the larger the herd, the safer the individuals. Now, large herds dung and urinate all over their own food, and they have to keep moving. And it was that movement that prevented the overgrazing of plants, while the periodic trampling ensured good cover of the soil, as we see where a herd has passed. This picture is a typical seasonal grassland. It has just come through 4 months of rain, and it's now going into 8 months of dry season. And watch the change as it goes into this long dry season. Now, all of that grass you see above ground has to decay biologically before the next growing season. And if it doesn't, the grassland and the soil begin to die. Now, if it does not decay biologically, it shifts to oxidation, which is a very slow process, and this smothers and kills grasses, leading to a shift to woody vegetation and bare soil, releasing carbon. To prevent that, we have traditionally used fire. But fire also leaves the soil bare, releasing carbon. And worse than that, burning 1 hectare of grassland gives off more and more damaging pollutants than 6,000 cars. And we are burning, in Africa, every single year, more than 1 billion hectares of grasslands, and almost nobody is talking about it. We justify the burning as scientists because it does remove the dead material and it allows the plants to grow. Now, looking at this grassland of ours that has gone dry, what could we do to keep that healthy? And bear in mind, I'm talking of most of the world's land now. Okay? We cannot reduce animal numbers to rest it more without causing desertification and climate change. We cannot burn it without causing desertification and climate change. What are we going to do? There is only one option. I repeat to you, only one option left to climatologists and scientists, and that is to do the unthinkable and to use livestock, bunched and moving.
The consensus is that beef in particular, however it's produced, is a leading driver in climate change. Some amounts of carbon can be sequestered by some grazing practices on some land, but they can also be released by bad management, and the soil's capacity for holding carbon is limited. Is the discrimination of another based solely on species. That's not to say there aren't other reasons for different treatment, but if that were the real reason, then meat eaters would have no problem eating, say, very young children who have a similar level of self-awareness to farmed animals. And yes, farmed animals are sentient. Is the discrimination of another based solely on species. That's not to say there aren't other reasons for different treatment, but if that were the real reason, then meat eaters would have no problem eating, say, very young children who have a similar level of self-awareness to farmed animals. And yes, farmed animals are sentient.
Ugh, I cannot stand when they talk like that. It's like they've come up with this philosophical argument and then they're just pretending that's why we eat meat, because these animals aren't intelligent and we can just abuse them and eat them. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? We don't eat them because they lack intelligence. We eat them because they are nutritious and they are not human and we don't want to be cannibals.
Arguments just come down to we're human and they aren't. And that's it. Morality only protects humans. Non-humans are not protected. They're not considered. And so we can do with them what we like.
Good, Swayze. You're getting it. Good. That's literally the only argument we need. We are human. And we will always protect our own species first. You got it? You understand it? Just like you wouldn't save a dog before you saved a baby. You know, you can talk all this bullshit all you want, but when it comes to reality, you care more about other human beings if you're not a psychopath.
Most people don't think it's okay to just kill a dog, so yeah, they're not always the most consistent. The obvious problem with this is that it allows for any arbitrary discrimination. You might as well say that morality only protects white dudes. It's ultimately just selfish, right? I mean,
I just can't with this mindset, this train of thought. So, if you need this written out comprehensive set of rules and guidelines of morality, then you're just, I don't know, you're a psychopath and you don't have empathy and you're not human. I'm sorry, but if you don't have a spirit, if you don't have empathy, if you don't have these things and you can't define what is okay for yourself, then I don't know what to tell you. And as far as consistency, you're saying that we're equal to animals, but then you said it was okay to go sterilize the deer because they're overpopulated. You realize the human population is overpopulated, right? So let's use that consistency, girl. Let's go sterilize people without their consent. Oh, what? Is that not okay? So you're above the deer then? Okay.
So, a lot of vegans want animal products. Like, that's the food you want. It's a religion at this point. It's a really weird, really sad religion.